this campus as a woman-identified person, as a Black person, as a queer person. And I guess for that reason, I've avoided a lot of spaces, intellectual spaces as well as social spaces and even cultural spaces here. And so I've created my own safe space, but it's very secluded. It's oftentimes my own room. And so I guess there's a way in which Harvard is safe for me because I tried to create that in my whatever personal, individual way I could. But there are so many spaces that felt so dangerous to be like a woman, and then a Black woman at that I don't know if I could come out and describe Harvard as safe.
I don't feel as if like Harvard is my campus per se. I feel like sometimes when I'm like outside of like the Black community, so like in normal Harvard, I have to like be more conscious of what I say, how I walk, who I talk to, or just basically, you know, one thing that someone told me back home is when you open your mouth, people see your brains. And I feel like I constantly have to think about what I'm going to say before I open my mouth because I don't want people to judge me. But I feel like once you enter like the Black community at Harvard, once I attend, you know, their events, their meetings, or whatever else they're co-sponsoring, I feel as if it's my space. You know, I belong here and I can do whatever I want because I am here. I'm home.
I'm the president of the Harvard Black Men's Forum, and since I've gotten here, there's just been a really welcoming group of guys. I remember getting here, and like the first group of people I met were a group of, I think, 20 or 30 Black men. They had kind of off the cuff beam at me to welcome pre-frosh, and I was just shocked to see that many Black men go to Harvard. I didn't know groups like that existed. That was kind of the first moment when I got on campus that I felt some kind of racial solidarity.
I haven't been very involved in the Black groups on campus. I would like to be more involved, but I think being biracial, I kind of find my community everywhere. I tend not to pick up on race at all, actually, except for when there's when there's this huge disparity.
Pretty much as far back as I can remember, I've always been pretty cognizant of race and of the various nuances that are associated with it. But this past semester was weird and interesting and uncomfortable because it was the first time in a long time that I felt the burden of being Black in the classroom and being Black walking around Harvard's campus. I don't know what it was about my freshman year why I didn't feel it as much, but this year walking around and walking into my classes, I just felt like the other.
She said, oh, well, there are so many cases when, you know, we do admit African-American students, and it's both horrible for the university and the students because they underperform, and it's just a lose-lose situation. I felt marginalized. I felt attacked being one of the only Black people in the room and them saying, like, this kind of stuff. And then, you know, the preceptor, she just looks me dead in the eye with the most intense glare that I have, like, ever really seen. And I'm like right here, like I'm like sitting like right next to her, and she's just like, yes, but why do they always have to pick the Black student? And she like said it twice too. I was like, I just told her that they don't always pick the Black student. If they always pick the Black student in cases of affirmative action, then there would be a lot more. We make up a lot more than 10% of Harvard University's population, honestly. So they obviously don't always pick the Black person. But she looked directly at me and said it with like a really intense glare, and I was just like, I felt some type of way. I felt like she was basically saying, you know, what she really wanted to say was, but why did they choose you? Why are you here right now? Why are you in my class? It really let me know how not just students feel, because I already knew that there were a lot of students who feel like I didn't deserve to be here, but also like faculty members.
There were no Black female professors, no tenured professors, no even non-tenured professors in a lot of my science classes here. And so there's never a time when I have like a mentor I can go to, even like a Black male professor doesn't exist. There's never really anyone I can talk to about what it's like to be in the hard sciences at Harvard. So a lot of times that makes me feel kind of marginalized.
And there's always that moment when you're the only black student in your section.
When in class and you're the only black kid and the N-word comes up or something in a book or something where there's slavery or whatever it is.
And the issue of race comes up or the issue of slavery or the issue of whatever.
Everyone looks to you
as if you're about to speak for your race.
As if like you represent everybody in the race and suddenly your voice will like carry such weight.
And it's kind of frustrating because you would hope that people would understand that there are all different types of black people and black people don't all have the same opinions about the same issues.
Or it's like, will she get angry about it? How does she react? Should we be walking on eggshells about this topic? And it's like, no, I'm just learning like everybody else.
And so I'm always tempted to hold back and not say anything because I don't want to feel like they're going to take what I say as representative of everyone.
I don't think there's like a black culture. People have like they do different things. I mean, there's some things that I guess unite like African Americans, but then you have like people like coming in from Africa, like the Caribbean all the time and stuff. Like, are they not black? No, they're allowed to be black too.
You can drive through my town and you'll see Confederate flags waving, and this is Massachusetts, you know? So coming from a place like that where racism is kind of celebrated in some places to a place like this where it's much more diverse and I feel much more open and people are much more willing to have conversations. Harvard is my campus.
I didn't really claim Harvard. I would say, well, I go to Harvard, but I'm not really of Harvard. I don't feel like a typical Harvard student. And it took a while and it took a lot of experiences to prove and to illustrate that I too am Harvard.
I'm not sure I'm of Harvard, but at the same time, it's going to help me in whatever avenues I choose to take my next steps.
I guess the biggest irony of coming to Harvard is that for as much pain and as much confusion as it caused me, it also developed in me a really focused and sharp sense of what I want to do moving forward, and it has made me excited about the work to come and the kind of life I want to live in the future.
Most of the time I say this campus feels safe, and as for it belonging to me, I guess Harvard is this institution that stood before the Constitution of the United States, and so I think it's something you have to kind of make it your space because it stood long before you were here and it'll stand long after you go. So if you don't make it your own space, it's not necessarily a space that's going to make you feel a part of it, but if you really make yourself a part of it, then yeah, you can be a part of the space.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I too am Harvard. There is another one, yes. Let's go to I too am MIT. We got all the best schools. I too am MIT. Let's take a listen.
How does it feel to be a black student at MIT? It's really a very heavy question. You're expected to overperform in every situation because you have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you're here because of your academics and because of your intelligence, and not just because you're some little black student.
I feel tremendous pressure being a black student here because it's like either people expect you to fail because you're a black student and say, oh, you're really grinding because of X, Y, and Z reasons, therefore you don't really belong here.
It's kind of like the imposter syndrome people have, but magnified, because it's not just okay, me, myself, oh, do I think I don't belong here, but it's also these people think that black students don't belong here, so it gives more pressure on you.
If you're raising your hand, you better be right, because it almost feels like you are representing something to a lot of people that maybe don't interact with another person of color for the rest of the day.
I haven't experienced racism outright at MIT, but at the same time there's a lot of microaggression that I think a lot of us students feel. biggest problem with microaggressions at MIT or in general is that in this day and age, people really know not to say outlandish, like super racist things. Like they just know better. They know what's politically correct. But a lot of times I still have the feeling that I'm different and that people are looking at me in a different way or treat me in a different way.
Something that you're unsure of, you can't feel like one blank. Your finger at somebody for being racist or try to pull a black card in every situation because people expect that of you.
It's very difficult to put into concrete terms, but I know for myself and even for my friends it's a very real thing and it affects the way that we live and the decisions that we make.
I see racial bias from professors.
This semester taking a politics class and my professor talking about Italy and how it's been devolved to the point where it's halfway to Africa. It makes me feel like people just think of the entire continent of Africa as some place where people walk around like monkeys and everything is just underdeveloped and everybody is, in poverty. Well, it's really not. It's a diverse place with, lots of different kind of areas that are developed and booming, and the fact that people still feel this way, and a professor no less, saying this to a group of students where I'm the only person of color and can't really speak up, it makes me feel like being black here, I don't really have a voice.
I've had people tell me, I don't like other black people. And obviously I'm like, what's that supposed to mean?
I think they're trying to give you a compliment, but at the end of the day, the compliment is racist. What they're trying to do just doesn't work and it's insulting.
I don't want to feel like I'm propagating my own stereotype, and I don't like this kind of responsibility to constantly have to reject those kinds of things. In the dining hall, I feel like I'm supposed to be quieter or maybe not laugh as loud because I don't want people to think like, oh, it's another loud black person.
I think it comes up a lot in class. It comes up on the tech show and stuff like that. When you're sitting on the tech show and every seat on the bus will fill up before the one next to you will, or you're sitting in class and you have to choose partners and everybody gets a partner before you or something like that.
It's like when you're walking down the street at night, it's kind of people who drastically move out the way. It's kind of weird just to think that people don't feel safe with you on campus, or they feel kind of scared by your presence.
In my major, there's only 2 black people, and I think that we often, whether it's by choice or because of outside forces, work together. But I do think that if we didn't choose to work together, that I still think that we'd be alienated from other groups.
Well, one of my friends at the gym, she was running, stretching, she's pretty athletic, and a guy comes up to her and says, you're really lucky that, we made you like that, implying that black people are athletic because, they went through slavery.
So being black at MIT, where there's so few of us, I sometimes feel like my culture is a show where people are just kind of fascinated and kind of want to watch me.
Talking about misappropriation of black culture, the pantomime that was stage work is a prime example.
I know it's not meant to be, but it's almost a judgmental environment at times where you feel as if you're already starting below everyone else because of nothing other than how much you work with them.
I just feel different and alone a lot because there are a lot of times where you'll be sitting in a class, be the only person of color, or walking down the hallway and you're the only person of color, or you're in the dining hall and you're the only person of color, or you're sitting at a table with only people of color. And that's just the biggest thing that makes me feel different here, is that there's just so few of us and I'm always feeling kind of alone.
A couple years back, someone wrote an article about how they didn't feel black students belong to MIT, or they were complaining about affirmative action.
Discussion about affirmative action and statements about whether or not certain people deserve to be here have definitely placed a burden, I think, on minority students at MIT, because this is a hard enough place to be at already without knowing that there are certain classmates of yours that legitimately think that you don't belong here because of your race.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I too am MIT. It's Black History Month. Yes, we are celebrating Black History Month here in the village of the Anselm and Marjorie. We give you I too am Harvard, I too am BCC, I too am MIT. We're going to go for a short break, and when we come back, more I